Hey there guys, welcome to another video. I am actually just walking around. I'm a bit sick, but I've been too stationary for too long. I don't feel ready to go back to the gym. I still feel really weak, but it's been absolutely killing me staying at home and resting up. So it's a nice day, it's a warm day, so I'm gonna just have a walk, get some fresh air in me and just take it nice and slow, because it'll be more beneficial for me than just staying at home and being sick. So while you need to rest up when you're sick, you don't need to be totally still. I know there are trainers and lots of people out there that say that intermittent fasting is the key to fat loss, and it can definitely help. It's not gonna harm you in any way. It is gonna help you lose fat and keep fat off, but it is not the be all and end all. If you're not intermittent fasting, you can still get amazing results. So what's all the hubbub about it? Well, intermittent fasting is a great tool and it can help you get amazing results if used correctly. So let's break down what intermittent fasting is. You're basically giving yourself a restricted window of eating. Now, restricted is not a great word. It's where you're setting yourself a specific eating window. And this window is the only time in which you're going to eat. The typical breakdown for intermittent fasting is a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour eating window. Now, that doesn't mean that you're stuffing your face for a full 8 hours. It means that within those 8 hours, that is when you're getting your food in. That is when you can start eating, and within the time that you stop eating. You can still have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meals, even more in that time, but it has to be within those 8 hours. This is so that when you have your fasting time, your body is learning to burn fat. And it's going to learn to burn fat for fuel rather than carbs, rather than sugar. It's got to also repair itself because you're not giving it all the food in the world. So when you're constantly anabolic, your body is just growing. It's only growing. It's not trying to repair anything, which to some people will sound amazing. Because, hey, I always want to be anabolic. I don't want to lose muscle. I want to gain muscle. Well, yes and no. If you're gaining muscle, that's great, but you can still do that while intermittent fasting. The problem with always being anabolic and always in a building phase is that your body will build everything. It's not trying to suss out any bad cells or any good cells. It's not trying to repair itself. So that means if you have any damaged cells or bad cells, ones that aren't working properly, like cancer cells, or ones that are going to turn into that, your body's not identifying them. So it's still actually trying to build that and replicate that, which is what can lead to tumors and cancers. It has been shown that by intermittent fasting, you can reduce this and therefore have a healthier life, because you're not at risk as much as you would be if you were constantly in that anabolic phase. Now, this is all because it also helps rebuild and repair your RNA, which is, you've got DNA, you've got RNA. RNA is a single strand of DNA. So it still comes down to that cellular repair, and there's less problems. So the cell, when it's replicating, is cloning this DNA. And if you're constantly anabolic, it's constantly replicating these cells. And if it replicates the bad cell, that's when you get cancer cells that are grown and cancers that are formed. But for us as healthy people, fitness people, people who are trying to get a healthy life and possibly lose weight, as the one that you've probably all been waiting for and the most interested in this video. Yes, the answer to your question of whether this can be useful for losing weight is yes, 100%. It absolutely can be. And this is again because of the calorie restriction. Now, when you're trying to lose weight, you typically want to eat less than your body burns. Everyone pretty much knows this, but we all also know that that can be quite challenging. To actually maintain a caloric deficit is really straining on us mentally as well as physically. So by putting your food into an 8-hour eating window, it means that you can have bigger meals, more satiating meals, more calorically dense meals, and that way you'll feel more satisfied. You'll also be able to feel like you're eating, or even plan meals that allow you to eat the foods that you really want. Now, if you follow any other fitness YouTubers or Instagram people who follow intermittent fasting, then they've probably got some pictures or some videos of them eating some quite outrageous stuff and still hitting their macros and still losing weight. Now, while that's awesome, you've got to understand that just because you're intermittent fasting doesn't mean you should be eating bad food all the time. You still want to be eating a good amount of food, having that 80-20 split, and making sure you're having good, nutritious food. So you're having your fruit, your broccoli, your vegetables, your good lean protein sources, and then your good healthy carbs, while fitting in those cheekier, slightly naughty foods at the same time. So for me, as I still work a regular full-time job as well as running my own business, intermittent fasting works really well for me because I don't have to meal prep 6 meals. I don't have to try and get my food in every couple of hours. I can make that work around me. Some of you will know I am actually also a high school teacher. I have set times when I'm working. I do not get to change that. It is, I have this class then, I have duty there, I have playground, I have other commitments and exams going on, a kid needs help. It's not predictable, but at the same time it is. So I know when my breaks are, and I know when my day starts, and I know when my day ends, where I have to stand in front of kids and teach, where I can't eat. Now everything else is a grey zone. When I'm in my staff room, I can eat whatever I want. At a meeting, I can make something work and have something sneaky. Especially being a PE teacher, eating some healthy food is never looked down on in a meeting, which is awesome. But because I have that full-time job, I'm not in my kitchen every 2 hours. I can't cook a meal every 2 hours. And I also don't want to revolve my life around getting into the kitchen and cooking food. So I like to meal prep along with intermittent fasting. So when I get up, I can go and train, or I can have a sleep in, and then I go to work and I have my tea. Even though it's my cinnamon, nutmeg, turmeric, and I can't remember what else, tea, it's not got any sugar, it's not got any milk in it, it's just the tea and water. So that's a nice way to start my morning. And then at either first break or second break, I'll have my first meal. And that'll depend on how hungry I am, on how much I'm restricting myself, and also whether I have duty or anything. Now, I can also take this to an extreme, which is more following the warrior diet, where you eat in more of a 4-hour eating window and you fast for 20. And I did this when I was following a different sort of diet protocol. I'd read about it, I researched it, the science was sound, and I wanted to give it a go. But I was seriously restricting my calories to about half my maintenance. It was about 1,250 calories. And for me, that's really low. So to do that, I actually bumped out my last meal until I came home. Now, on average, I was still getting home at about 4 o'clock. So I was having a meal at about 4:30 or 5:30 if my day ran late with a meeting or opening the gym for the kids or something. So it was still okay, but it was more of a mental aspect for me of going, okay, I'm not eating until this time because. So I knew what was going on and I was okay with it. Now I can only do this and by this I mean not eating until 5 p.m. because I have been intermittent fasting for years. Not days, not months, years. And when I first started to intermittent fast, I again did it because I was teaching and I was cycling 10 miles a day. So 5 miles to work, 5 miles back. And I say miles because I was in England at the time, not Australia, so it wasn't K's, it was miles. And yeah, it just made sense for me. I got sick of having to pack my food, having to lug it on my back, wrap it up in a plastic bag and hope it didn't spill. Because I like to meal prep curries, healthy curries, those days so that it would heat up really nice, the flavors would mix together really nice, and it would keep a long time in the fridge, like the whole week. So that was my go-to meal prep. But instead, once I found intermittent fasting, I was able to actually enjoy fresh food a lot more. I could come home and cook rather than meal prepping. So my meal prep would consist of cutting things up in advance, and then I could cook it fresh that night. Now, to train myself, and I do mean train myself not to eat for 16 hours, but to actually take this window down to 8. Because I was eating at, I think my breakfast was about 6:30 or 7 in the morning whenever I got to work, I would immediately eat my first meal. That way I wasn't riding to work on a full stomach and having to get up really early, especially in winter, especially in England when it's just always cold. So that was good, but I had to train my body not to eat food straight up when I got to work. So what I started doing was, school would start at, I think, 8:15. So I would eat at 8 o'clock and I would smash it, but I'd wait that extra hour. After I got my body used to eating at 8 o'clock, I would then, on the days that I had period 1 free, I would then eat at 9 o'clock just before my first class, which would be, I think about sometimes 10. Yeah, so then I eat at about 9, then I eat at 9:30, then go just before my first class in period 2, and that way I've started bumping out my food until 10 o'clock. And then from there, it was just every sort of later period that I had off on that day, I would try and wait it out until then. And then I got to first break, and I made sure that once I got to first breaks, that was about 11:30, 12-ish, same as about now, that what I was doing was consistently doing that. So I held that. I trained my body for the next week or 2, and then I was consistently for another week or 2 eating at that time. And then it made it easy. So once I was at 11:30, 12, my eating window was until 8. So that was maintainable for me. I could then do that. It was only if I was planning on then going to bed at a later time, if I was going to go out with my mates or something on the weekend, then I'd bump it out into the second break where it was about 1:15 or 1:20 or something like that. Because then I have until the same 8 hours later to eat. And that just made it really, really workable, really sustainable and consistent for me. Day in, day out, that's the routine I was in. My meal times didn't change because that's the only time I could eat, and it just worked really well, saved me bringing a lot of meals and everything. Oh. Now, it's about midday or 11 or something, and I'm actually just feeling my head's coming on a bit stronger, so I'm gonna take a little rest here and keep chatting with you guys. This is kind of already probably a long video, I'm sure, so I'm gonna wrap this up with my warrior diet type intermittent fasting, where I wasn't eating for multiple hours, and then I would come home and eat this very restricted low carb diet for 3.5 days out of my week. This diet was quite extreme. It's not something I recommend, especially wouldn't do it day in, day out. I had high carb days, low carb days. I was hitting just below my maintenance calories per week, so I was still getting all the foods I needed, still getting all the fats, all the vitamins, all the minerals. So I wasn't making this where I was depriving my body of nutrients. So one thing I cannot stress is, if you want to take this as an idea and something you want to utilize, then go for it, but please, please, please make sure you're doing it safely, because you should not be restricting yourself to 1200, 1250. I might even be below that on this one. I can't remember, but please make sure that you're doing it with guidance, that you understand what you're putting into your body, and make sure you're getting all the food and nutrients that you need. In saying that, this is what I did. Now, today's a bit of a weird day for me because I haven't eaten my first meal yet, and it is thereabouts 5 to 5. So I'm going to show you what I eat. I'm going to show you the 3 meals I'll eat within about 4 to 6 hours, depending how early I go to bed. This isn't ideal. Your intermittent fasting, you really want to be eating in like an 8-hour window and having a 16-hour fast. But with my work and how today sort of happened, I didn't want to cook this morning. I spent a little bit longer in the gym hitting my morning workout. So I actually hit that at about 5 o'clock, and I still haven't eaten anything. I've had a black coffee, I've had some water with some lemon in it, and that's literally it. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to show you what I'm going to eat for meal 1. So for meal 1, I'm going to make an omelette, which is high in fat, high in protein, low in carbs, great for losing weight on. Even to start your morning, it keeps you really refreshed. So even if you're not intermittent fasting, you're running more on fat than carbs for fuel, and it keeps you more mentally alert. So in this omelette, I'm going to have 1 bok choy, I'm going to have 1 capsicum, nice whole beautiful ruby red, 4 eggs, and I'm going to cook that up with some coconut oil. I prefer to chop it up, make it into an omelette, as that's the easiest, quickest way for me to do it. But if you want to do your eggs sunny side up and have the veggies as a side or something like that, or even put them on or in the capsicum, that's amazing too. I've done that before. It's awesome. Give it a go. Eat it how you love it. But I'm going to show you what I do. So here is the final result. So there you have it, guys. That's meal 1. Put the macros on the screen for you. I think they're 31 protein, 12 carb, and 27 fat from memory. That is meal 1, and I'm about to dig in. Alright guys, so it's almost 2 hours later. It's about 10 to 7, and I'm about to eat my second meal. I've just cooked it up, and I'll show you what I'm going to put on it too. Alright, so I got about 190, 200 grams of steak. Got an avocado that I cut up yesterday, but it is about 60 grams of avocado, and then half a head of cauliflower. And on that, I'm going to put some fresh garlic pepper that I got from the market. Doesn't look like too much. Probably a bit more regular pepper. I'm also going to use a dabbing of the chipotle barbecue sauce to add a bit more flavour, just to change it up, because I don't use this very much, but it's awesome. The macros aren't actually too bad on it, and when you're only using a little bit, it's just great to spice it up and yeah, just have a bit of fun. So for the macros of this meal, we actually have 55 protein, about 36 carb, and 19 fat. So getting a little bit larger, and then the next meal should be a little bit less again. So my meal just before bed is going to be real nice and not too heavy on the stomach. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy this now. I'll check in with you guys in the next meal. Alright guys, so final meal of the day. It is currently 8:10, and I'm about to dig into this here meal. So this is the final meal of the day. Bit of chicken with lemon pepper seasoning, pumpkin, and some zucchini. So the macros for this meal are 38 protein, 39 carb, and 7 fat. Looks delicious. Okay, so for the total macronutrients that my day has involved, I've got, scroll down, 1,287 calories, with 87 of those from carbs, 52 from fat, and 124 from protein. So today is my half calorie, so half my maintenance calories, and adequate protein, adequate fat, and then low carb. So you can see all my carbs are coming from vegetable sources, and I've literally eaten that in about, or I will have eaten it in 3.5 hours. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy this meal now, and I will check in with you guys whenever I pick up the camera again.